Welcome to What You Missed When You Didn't Exist. I am Corbett, and I am 54.
And I'm Lucy, and I'm 24. Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back. Welcome back, and let's separate things.
Dude, rudeness.
Because today we're going to talk about the Berlin Wall. The biggest wall, well, I guess it's the Great Wall, probably not that big. It's a wall. It was a wall. Let's talk about, more specifically, the fall of the Berlin Wall. Because, and this does fall a little bit out of our range, but the Berlin Wall was created in 1961 after the separation, after World War II. Basically, the Russians and the Allies divided up Germany. And they cut it into East and West Germany. Pretty straightforward, but the problem is Berlin, the capital of Germany, was in the east, and there was a separation inside the city. So the city itself was kind of encapsulated. East Germany had like a direct route that was cordoned off from West Germany. So you can get in and out of West Berlin, and East Berlin was the Russian side, basically. In 61, they physically built a wall between the two city parts to keep out the people, or keep everybody separated, separate the world. I think that's when JFK makes the big speech, the Ich bin ein Berliner, where he wants to be a jelly donut.
Okay.
That was before my time. Irrelevant, because we're talking about in 1989, that wall came down. All because Ronald Reagan said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall." And Mr. Gorbachev said, "Okay," tore it down. Or he said that like a lot of people say that. There was a lot of miscommunication. Things kind of fell apart. And then the wall came down because nobody realized it was coming down before it did. So the funny story there is that there was the problem with dictators is they're really hard to nail down because they want to say whatever they want to say whenever they feel like saying it.
Yes.
And nobody knew. There were people who were saying that Gorbachev had said the wall was going to come down. And there were other people who said the wall would never come down. It led to this big mass confusion to where nobody knew what was happening, at least on the Russian side. And I think it was kind of confusing on the Allies side too. I think it came down to, I seem to remember a child being handed over barbed wire.
Yes, I've seen that image.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the soldier who was supposed to, shoot whoever comes over the wire didn't know what to do. So he just kind of let it happen. And when that happened, people started, they went from the peaceful protest, like, we don't like the wall, to ripping it to pieces, literally smashing holes in the walls, knocking it down and pulling it over. And it was a big celebrational moment. It was huge. It was on the news everywhere. And of course, it was kind of the triggering moment that signaled the fall of the USSR, which we didn't realize how quickly that was going to come, but it was going to come pretty soon. They already had a few internal faults that they didn't release that was making things complicated, I guess is the way I should say it. A few years before, specifically, there was a nuclear facility in Chernobyl, which is actually in the Ukraine at this point, but Ukraine was part of the USSR again. Chernobyl melted down, and we'll definitely have to cover this in another show, but Chernobyl melted down and they didn't bother to tell anybody.
That Chernobyl had melted down?
Yeah, we found out because, like, hey, anybody notice I have a third arm? There was like a radioactive cloud slowly building up and nobody knew why. It was incredibly awkward, and finally the Russia slowly leaked, like, well, we might have a minor problem at one of our facilities. And like, yeah, it melted down literally bad. But that was in 86, so it was a couple years before, but they were slowly kind of breaking apart because any dictatorship is going to have complications. They're doomed to. You have one single point of control, and all it takes is any fallacy in that point of control, and it starts breaking apart. And that's kind of what happened with the Berlin Wall. The Berlin Wall was the absolute public version of Chernobyl breaking down. It was the moment where everybody in the world goes, yes, Russia's done, and that's all over. That wasn't the end of Russia. It was the separation of the USSR to become the Russian Soviet Republic. Then that whole world started up. But it did separate out Ukraine. They got their own independence, and Poland and a lot of the other countries started becoming their own states and countries and got away from it all. I think that your Aunt Anya can probably talk to you a lot more about what Russia was like. I don't think she lived through any of it directly, but her parents did very directly. The Russian control over like the school systems and everything that went into it.
Yeah.
Because they were from Poland. But yeah, it was not great to have Russia controlling everything, and it was pretty good to see it kind of fall. I guess it's a little schadenfreude going on, the happiness at the misfortune of others there moment.
Yes.
But it's not so much misfortune as them being able to come into the fold and like, all right, now we're all together. Let's all work together. And so after that, the world grew in peace and harmony, and everything was great.
We have not been able to let go of walls, that's for sure. I think the building and taking down of walls is still a very strong topic. And I think it's something that we just have to let continue because no one seems to be learning from any lessons of what walls do to people and what it means. Because the Great Wall of China was meant to keep out the Huns, the Mongolians.
Yeah.
And that didn't work. People are dead inside of the walls today.
Well, most of those are people who are forced to build the walls.
Exactly.
But yeah.
The wall is crumbling and people are now able to walk freely through the wall. Clearly it's not doing anything. Same thing happened with the Berlin Wall. And we had the wall between the United States and Mexico. Don't know if it's still being built. I heard they halted that process for the time being. But there's just
one point.
The determination of human spirit will always and forever be greater than that of any wall that is ever built. And that is true time and time again.
The ladder of the human spirit will always outweigh the wall of intolerance.
Exactly. Epic quote. It's just interesting to me that it still continues. And I have always heard about the fall of the Berlin Wall, but I never had quite understood why it was built in the first place because it seemed so silly. And it's because of all these people that think they're strong enough to just keep out anyone or keep in anyone or whatever it is.
Well, I think that kind of goes to the philosophical standpoint of a house. You know, what is a house without walls? A house with only walls has no doors or windows, and that's a prison.
True.
What are you keeping out or what are you keeping in? And that's the thing. Having a house is nice because you keep the wind off of you and the rain off of you and it's protective. So I get it. I do. But without the ability to look out and to move through, what's the point of it?
Yeah. It's just one of those things that you never quite think about.
When you build a wall, you're trying to protect yourself from something outside, but then you also seal yourself in. So that's kind of the downside of when you protect yourself from something, you also protect yourself from being able to feel it or deal with it. And yeah, there's some things that are physically dangerous and you want to block them out. But if you're just trying to block an idea, it doesn't stop from a wall.
Yeah. Well, I think part of that also comes from people's need to control whatever they can control just because they feel that it's better for their sanity or because they feel like it's better for their cause. But that idea that controlling something that you should not be worried about controlling is just too much sometimes. And it's something that so many people even now are going to therapy for and realizing like, hey, you can only control what you can control. Don't try to control things that are outside of your control because it's only causing you stress and harm. Snooze.
Like your cat.
Yep. Controlling things outside of my control.
No, that's a good point. Well, I think the fall of the Berlin Wall is a neat concept. I think it really didn't end quite the way that I think everybody presumes, like, oh, they knocked down the wall and then there was no more wall. Like, if the Russians wanted to reinforce that, all they'd have to do is send troops right up there, and a wall of people acts about the same way as a wall standing there. So put a whole row of people with guns, that kind of stops whatever's in front of them.
This is true.
It's terrible. But the thing was that Russia itself was like, well, it came down. I guess we could just deal with it. And that opened up trade and options within the city and within the countries. And Germany became its own little world again. and things started growing, because when everybody shares, everybody benefits from it.
Very true.
So that's a downer.
And you thought it would be a happy.
I think it is. I think it was a pretty good moment. It's just it's a difficult one, because you realize it's like 30 some odd years of locking an entire country away.
Yeah.
And it took them that long to break it. Yeah, it's terrible, but it happened and it's over. So that's kind of good. At least that part's over.
But we can focus on the will of the ladder of the human spirit will always be stronger and taller
overcoming the wall.
Than any wall that's ever built. Humanity's got this in the bag.
See, it's upbeat. Okay. So for what you missed when you didn't exist, overcome your wall.
Yeah. Be the spirit.